Hey, Flo here with another Bible reading. So today we're going to be reading Leviticus 1 through 4 and Matthew chapter 18. I'm going to get right into it. Dear Lord, please be with us today. Desperate for your presence. I believe that you're always here with me, but don't always feel super aware of your presence. I just pray that you would make your presence known. As we read your word, I pray that those would reveal things about you and help us to understand you, and also just come to life, make these words come to life, and also cause them to bring life to us. Help us to understand. Help me to read clearly. Thank you for saving us. Pray that you would cause others to be drawn to you. Just bring them to you, Lord. Use us as your people to reach the world in spite of our seeming lack of abilities. Speak for myself primarily. But use this simple servant with a seemingly lack of qualifications and abilities to glorify yourself today and every day. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay. So Leviticus, wait a minute, is that right? Yeah, Leviticus chapter 1. Then the Lord called to Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying, Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when any of you brings an offering to the Lord, you may bring as your offering an animal from the herd or the flock. If one's offering is a burnt offering from the herd, he is to present an unblemished male. He must bring it to the entrance to the tent of meeting for its acceptance before the Lord. He is to lay his hand on the head of the burnt offering, so it can be accepted on his behalf to make atonement for him. And he shall slaughter the young bull before the Lord, and Aaron's sons, the priests, are to present the blood and sprinkle it on all sides of the altar at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Next, he is to skin the burnt offering and cut it into pieces. The sons of Aaron, the priests, shall put a fire on the altar and arrange wood on the fire. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, are to arrange the pieces, including the head and the fat, atop the burning wood on the altar. The entrails and legs must be washed with water, and the priest shall burn all of it on the altar as a burnt offering, an offering made by fire, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. If, however, one's offering is a burnt offering from the flock, from the sheep or goats, he is to present an unblemished male. He shall slaughter it on the north side of the altar before the Lord, and Aaron's sons, the priests, are to sprinkle its blood against the altar on all sides. He is to cut the animal into pieces, and the priest shall arrange them, including the head and fat, atop the burning wood that is on the altar. The entrails and legs must be washed with water, and the priest shall bring all of it and burn it on the altar. It is a burnt offering, an offering made by fire, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. If instead one's offering to the Lord is a burnt offering of birds, he is to present a turtle dove or a young pigeon. Then the priest shall bring it to the altar, twist off its head, and burn it on the altar. Its blood should be drained out on the side of the altar, and he is to remove the the crop with its contents and throw it to the east side of the altar in the place for ashes. He shall tear it open by its wings without dividing the bird completely, and the priest is to burn it on the altar atop the burning wood. It is a burnt offering, an offering made by fire, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Leviticus 2. When anyone brings a grain offering to the Lord, his offering must consist of fine flour. He is to pour olive oil on it, put frankincense on it, and bring it to Aaron's sons, the priests. The priest shall take a handful of the flour and oil, together with all the frankincense, and burn this as a memorial portion on the altar, an offering made by fire, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. The remainder of the grain offering shall belong to Aaron and his sons. It is a most holy part of the offerings made by fire to the Lord. Now, if you bring an offering of grain baked in an oven, it must consist of fine flour, either unleavened cakes mixed with oil or unleavened wafers coated with oil. If your offering is a grain offering prepared on a griddle, it must be unleavened bread made of fine flour mixed with oil. Crumble it and pour oil on it. It is a grain offering. If your offering is a grain offering cooked in a pan, it must consist of fine flour with oil. When you bring to the Lord the grain offering made in any of these ways, it is to be presented to the priest, and he shall take it to the altar. The priest is to remove the memorial portion from the grain offering and burn it on the altar as an offering made by fire, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. But the remainder of the grain offering shall belong to Aaron and his sons. It is the most holy part of the offerings made by fire to the Lord. No grain offering that you present to the Lord may be made with leaven, for you are not to burn any leaven or honey as an offering made by fire to the Lord. You may bring them to the Lord as an offering of first fruits, but they are not to be offered on the altar as a pleasing aroma. And you shall season each of your grain offerings with salt. You must not leave the salt of the covenant of your God out of your grain offering. You are to add salt to each of your offerings. If you bring a grain offering of first fruits to the Lord, you shall offer crushed heads of new grain roasted on the fire, and you are to put oil and frankincense on it. It is a grain offering. The priest shall then burn the memorial portion of the crushed grain and the oil, together with all its frankincense, as an offering made by fire to the Lord. By the way, if anyone notices, I don't have the oil lamp over here like I usually do. That olive oil that I use totally doesn't work. So I did a search prior to trying it, and a bunch of people say it's fine to use, but no, it's not. It doesn't work. If you read anything on the internet that says olive oil is good for oil lamps, just ignore it. It's not true. It doesn't work. So I need to buy some oil for the lamp, and then I'll bring it back. So maybe tomorrow or something I can go to the store somewhere. Otherwise it might be a while. I might have to order it online or something. We'll see. I would like to bring it back though. It's kind of fun to have. All right. Leviticus 3. If one's offering is a peace offering, and he offers an animal from the herd, whether male or female, he must present it without blemish before the Lord. He is to lay his hand on the head of the offering and slaughter it at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, shall sprinkle the blood on all sides of the altar. From the peace offering, he is to bring an offering made by fire to the Lord, the fat that covers the entrails, all the fat that is on them, both kidneys with the fat on them near the loins, and the lobe of the liver, which he is to remove with the kidneys. Then Aaron's sons are to burn it on the altar atop the burnt offering that is on the burning wood, as an offering made by fire, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. If, however, one's peace offering to the Lord is from the flock, he must present a male or female without blemish. If he is presenting a lamb for his offering, he must present it before the Lord. He is to lay his hand on the head of his offering and slaughter it in front of the tent of meeting. Then Aaron's sons shall sprinkle its blood on all sides of the altar. And from the peace offering he shall bring an offering made by fire to the Lord, consisting of its fat, the entire fat tail cut off close to the backbone, the fat that covers the entrails, all the fat that is on them, both kidneys with the fat on them near the loins, and the lobe of the liver, which he is to remove with the kidneys. Then the priest is to burn them on the altar as food, an offering made by fire to the Lord. If one's offering is a goat, he is to present it before the Lord. He must lay his hand on its head and slaughter it in front of the tent of meeting. Then Aaron's sons shall sprinkle its blood on all sides of the altar. And from his offering he shall present an offering made by fire to the Lord. The fat that covers the entrails, all the fat that is on them, both kidneys, with the fat on them near the loins, and the lobe of the liver, which he is to remove with the kidneys. Then the priest is to burn the food on the altar as an offering made by fire, a pleasing aroma. All the fat is the Lord's. This is a permanent statute for the generations to come, wherever you live. You must not eat any fat or any blood. Leviticus 4. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to do as follows with one who sins unintentionally against any of the Lord's commandments and does what is forbidden by them. If the anointed priest sins, bringing guilt on the people, he must bring to the Lord a young bull without blemish as a sin offering for the sin he has committed. He must bring the bull to the entrance to the tent of meeting before the Lord, lay his hand on the bull's head, and slaughter it before the Lord. Then the anointed priest shall take some of the bull's blood and bring it into the tent of meeting. The priest is to dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle some of it 7 times before the Lord in front of the veil of the sanctuary. The priest must then put some of the blood on the horns of the altar of fragrant incense that is before the Lord in the tent of meeting, and he is to pour out the rest of the bull's blood at the base of the altar of burnt offering at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Then he shall remove all the fat from the bull of the sin offering, the fat that covers the entrails, all the fat that is on them, both kidneys with the fat on them near the loins, and the lobe of the liver, which he is to remove with the kidneys, just as the fat is removed from the ox of the peace offering. Then the priest shall burn them on the altar of burnt offering. But the hide of the bull and all its flesh, with its head and legs and its entrails and dung, all the rest of the bull, he must take outside the camp to a ceremonially clean place where the ashes are poured out, and then he must burn it on a wood fire on the ash heap. Now if the whole congregation of Israel strays unintentionally and the matter escapes the notice of the assembly, so that they violate any of the Lord's commandments and incur guilt by doing what is forbidden, when they become aware of the sin they have committed, then the assembly must bring a young bull as a sin offering and present it before the tent of meeting. The elders of the congregation are to lay their hands on the bull's head before the Lord, and it shall be slaughtered before the Lord. Then the anointed priest is to bring some of the bull's blood into the tent of meeting, and he is to dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle it 7 times before the Lord in front of the veil. He is also to put some of the blood on the horns of the altar that is before the Lord in the tent of meeting, and he must pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar of burnt offering at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and he is to remove all the fat from it and burn it on the altar. He shall offer this bull just as he did the bull for the sin offering. In this way the priest will make atonement on their behalf, and they will be forgiven. Then he is to take the bull outside the camp and burn it, just as he burned the first bull. It is the sin offering for the assembly. When a leader sins unintentionally and does what is prohibited by any of the commandments of the Lord his God, he incurs guilt. When he becomes aware of the sin he has committed, he must bring an unblemished male goat as his offering. He is to lay his hand on the head of the goat and slaughter it at the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered before the Lord. It is a sin offering. Then the priest is to take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger, put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. He must burn all its fat on the altar, like the fat of the peace offerings. Thus the priest will make atonement for the man's sin, and he will be forgiven. And if one of the common people sins unintentionally and does what is prohibited by any of the Lord's commandments, he incurs guilt. When he becomes aware of the sin he has committed, he must bring an unblemished female goat as his offering for that sin. He is to lay his hand on the head of the sin offering and slaughter it at the place of the burnt offering. Then the priest is to take some of its blood with his finger, put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. Then he is to remove all the fat, just as it is removed from the peace offering, and the priest is to burn it on the altar as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. In this way the priest will make atonement for him, and he will be forgiven. If, however, he brings a lamb as a sin offering, he must bring an unblemished female, and he is to lay his hand on the head of the sin offering and slaughter it as a sin offering at the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered. Then the priest is to take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger, put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pour out the rest of its blood at the base of the altar. And he shall remove all the fat, just as the fat of the lamb is removed from the peace offerings, and he shall burn it on the altar, along with the offerings made by fire to the Lord. In this way the priest will make atonement for him for the sin he has committed, and he will be forgiven. Hey Jezza, sorry for the long delay. I saw you there, but usually finish a chapter first, but hope you're doing good. I don't remember noticing before that well, it's interesting that each thing that happens or each instruction in here is slightly different. They sound all the same if you read them and don't pay attention, but it's different depending on if you're a leader, if you're a priest, if you're a regular person. There's slightly different instructions. I found it interesting that I don't think any of the others were female sacrifices except for the common people, if I read that right, which is interesting. I don't know if that has significance. It could just be that God is making sure that not all the male animals are sacrificed and there's only females left. Who knows? I don't know the reason for that, but found that observation something I had not noticed maybe before. Or most of the time when I read these kind of things, I'm not paying super close attention, and it is a little bit hard to draw anything super deep out of it unless you're like a theologian or something. But yeah. The other thing I was thinking as I was reading that stuff is, what does it mean? And I don't have the answer for this at all. I would like to have a better answer, but what does it mean to be a priest? What I believe is that anyone who follows Jesus Christ and who is born again and becomes part of the kingdom of priests. I believe that we are all priests in a way as followers of Jesus. I don't think there's like set apart priests like the Catholic Church believes. We have a disagreement there. I don't believe that's what Scripture teaches. I would challenge someone to find a verse that supports that idea, because it's, as far as I know, it's not in Scripture. But so I believe that we're all priests, and in that way, what does it mean to be a priest? obviously we don't make sacrifices as far as animal sacrifices, but that's largely what the priests do, at least so far. We might read that they do other things, but generally how I think of it is a follower of Jesus should be ready to bridge the gap between an unbeliever and Jesus, and also help each other. You know, if you have a fellow believer, a brother or sister that's struggling either with sin or depression or just any kind of difficult situation, you can step in there if God's put you in that position in their life, and just be a comfort to them and just pray for them and try to ask God to be near them. So in a way, you're trying to help them draw near to God. And then as far as with unbelievers, we should be able to explain and present the case for God and Jesus and what he's done to people so that they have a chance to know what it's all about. Because I mean, it talks about, I don't remember where, but it talks about the foolishness of preaching is essentially the way that people come to know about Jesus. And it's funny that it uses the word foolishness, but in my case, it makes a lot of sense because I can't preach. I don't have a gift of preaching or teaching, as I've mentioned many times. That's why I'm primarily just reading the Bible and hoping that God will be present with us, making it clear to myself and anyone who might drop by, because I don't really have a lot of knowledge or skill at teaching. So anyway, but at the same time, I guess if I'm a priest, I'm reading the word and presenting it to people and just praying, hoping, like I am praying each time, not just before, but just I'm very cognizant or aware of what I'm doing and hoping that God is blessing this time, and that anyone that might drop by might feel his presence somehow. In spite of me, you know, I feel like if anything, I'm kind of a hindrance to that happening. I just don't have much confidence in myself as being something useful for this, but I'm going to be obedient in spite of that. I mean, I totally feel like Moses does, or at least what he expressed when God called him. It's like, I'm not good at talking. Somebody else should probably do this. Except that in my case, it's very, very true. It's not I guarantee it's not false humility at all. Like, I'm really bad at just expressing myself and talking. Hey, Blake, how's it going? So yeah, I don't feel like the right person to be a priest or whatever, that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm just gonna keep doing what I feel I should and just keep reading and just see how it goes. All right, so Matthew chapter 18. Yeah, so Blake, I used to say I'm a variety streamer, but now it seems that I've become a Bible reading streamer. That's kind of my thing now. I used to do a lot of different things, and I may get back to that, but I've been saying that for over 2 months now, and I still haven't really done anything else. Well, I did a couple IRL streams, but yeah, I used to do a lot of IRL hiking streams and book binding or crafts and other things. Did some music as well, and good number of things that are listed in my profile. I don't know if it's on Bolt, but yeah, anyway. But for now, I'm a Bible reader, so that's what I do. Just so you know. All right, so Matthew chapter 18. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Jesus invited a little child to stand among them. "Truly, I tell you," he said, "unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself like this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever welcomes a child like this in my name welcomes me. But if anyone causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him to have a large millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world for the causes of sin. These stumbling blocks must come, but woe to the man through whom they come. If your hand or foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life crippled or lame than to have 2 hands and 2 feet and be thrown into the eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into the fire of hell. See that you do not look down on any of these little ones, for I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray, will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go out to search for the one that is lost? And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he rejoices more over that one sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish. If your brother sins against you, go and confront him privately. If he listens to you, you have won your brother over. But if he will not listen, take 1 or 2 others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, regard him as you would a pagan or tax collector. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, I tell you truly that if 2 of you on the earth agree about anything you ask for, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 gather together in my name, there I am with them. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother who sins against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus answered, I tell you, not just 7 times, but 77 times. Because of this, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlements, a debtor was brought to him owing 10,000 talents. Since the man was unable to pay, the master ordered that he be sold to pay his debt, along with his wife and children and everything he owned. Then the servant fell on his knees before him. Have patience with me, he begged, and I will pay back everything. His master had compassion on him, forgave his debt, and released him. But when that servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. He grabbed him and began to choke him, saying, Pay back what you owe me. So his fellow servant fell down and begged him, Have patience with me, and I will pay you back. But he refused. Instead, he went and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay his debt. When his fellow servants saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed, and they went and recounted all of this to their master. Then the master summoned him and declared, You wicked servant, I forgave all your debt because you begged me. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you? In anger, his master turned him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should repay all that he owed. That is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother from your heart. All right. Okay, well, that's it for today's reading. I don't know that I have a lot to talk about today. Kind of already talked about the lamp. That was my huge conversation piece. It's quite fascinating. Let's see, what was I looking at earlier? I was going to maybe buy something. So for those that don't know, I used to do more 360 hiking videos. I can't live stream them because you just can't do it. I have to edit them and do a bunch of stuff, and then I upload them to YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and DOVR. Anyway, I don't remember if I mentioned it on my live stream, but I did break my camera a few weeks ago, so I can't record any more of those hiking videos, at least not in the way I used to. But I randomly came across an eBay listing, and there's a ton of these. You can buy the lens, just the lens for the camera, and DIY replace it yourself. So I might actually give that a try, because the camera is effectively not useful anymore anyway, so I can't really mess it up anymore. It has a giant scratch on it that, covers half. I mean, half is an exaggeration, but it's very impossible to ignore. It'd be very distracting if I recorded more videos that way, so I might order that part and see if I can replace that. Problem is I need some tools too, so it's always like that. It's like, oh, cool, I can buy the lens for like $24, but I need a heat gun, I need like adhesive, and just all this stuff, and it adds up really quick. So it'll probably be a while before I can do that. As always, I'm behind in uploading my previously recorded videos. I think I have maybe 2 or 3 left to upload, and then I'll be caught up. Something like that. Then after that, I'll probably start uploading some of the older ones that I've never uploaded before. So I'll still have plenty of things to upload, but as far as going out and recording new adventures, I won't be able to do that until I fix the camera, unfortunately. But anyway, I guess that's a bit of news, a little vlogging. For those that don't know, basically I do Bible reading and vlogging, so if anything interesting is going on that day, I'll just mention it, as long as it's not too private or something. So I don't know if I'll ever care to look back at my videos, but it's sort of like a journal type thing, like what was going on today, whatever, not anything too interesting. Of course I would chat if people were in chat, but I don't typically get a lot of visitors, so I just kind of do my thing and then end the stream and then wait till next time. So, and I apologize if anyone was actually interested last night when I said I might do a bookbinding stream. I really shouldn't be relied on for a particular schedule, because sometimes I think, oh, maybe I'll do that, and then I just get really tired or worn out and I don't do it. But since there's never, well, I shouldn't say never, but rarely anyone interacting, I don't really feel quite as obligated. If someone was sitting there like, oh, cool, I'll wait till you get on, then I probably would have considered it more seriously. But anyway, one of these days I'll get back into bookbinding. It's a little bit late tonight, so I probably won't do it tonight, but I'm on a weird schedule again, so I'm like sleeping during the day and up all night kind of a thing. So anyway, that's how it goes. So let's see. I keep forgetting to do this thing. I just leave that on the whole time, which is fine, but this is tomorrow's, or whenever I do the next reading, Leviticus 5-7 and John chapter 7. So yeah, I will see you all next time.